All right, everybody, so we're hopping back into the packet. Nice job with the CC3 book lesson. Hopefully you finished up the core problems. And so now we're looking at a little bit more practice with finding the measure of an angle when it's formed by parallel lines that are crossed by a transversal. Now remember, that word transversal is just referring to this line that crosses through two other lines. In this case, two parallel lines here. So using our knowledge of vertical angles, we can make the conjecture that the measure of angle 1 is congruent to the measure of angle 4, and the measure of angle 5 here is congruent to the measure of angle 8. We can also make the conjecture that 6 and 7 are the same angle measure, as well as 2 and 3. Notice these are basically just mirror images of each other, because what we see up top here, these four angles, are the same as these four angles down below. So knowing what we know, let's go ahead and figure out what all of these angle measures are given just one angle measure. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in what I know about angle 2. It's 120 degrees. And since angle 3 is congruent to it, it's also going to be 120 degrees. And my reasoning is going to be that they're vertical angles, meaning they're across from each other. Now we've got angle 4, which makes a straight line with angle 2. So they're going to add up to 180. So 120 plus what gives me 180? Well, that's going to be 60 degrees. And since 4 is vertical of angle 1, it's going to be 60 degrees for angle 1 as well. And now basically, since this is a copy up here, I can just put these angles with the matching angles down below, 2 with 6, 3 with 7, and 4 with 8. So angle 6 is going to be the same as angle 2, 120 degrees, and this is because they are corresponding. Angle 7 is going to be the same as angle 3 because, again, they're corresponding angles. Angle 5 is going to be the same as angle 1. And angle 8 is going to be the same as angle 4. All these are going to be because they are corresponding angles. Now, we could also call them a few different names, and we'll get into the names right here. Alternate interior is what we're going to call angles that are opposite of each other, like x and x here. And that's because they're on the inside, the interior of the two lines going across, and then they are on opposite sides of that line in the middle. So alternate interior, those angles are the same. Corresponding, we just talked about those. Those are the ones in the same relative position. They're going to have congruent measures. And then we're going to go ahead and just try this on your own. If we have 140 or 154 degrees for angle 8, how can we use this to figure out the measure of angle 2, measure of angle 3, measure of angle 1, and then all of these angles down below as well? All right. Then we can list what types of angles are alternate interior angles. So here 2 and 5 is what we start off. What are the other two alternate interior angles? And then we have supplementary angles. We have the measure of angle 2 and the measure of angle 3. They're supplementary. So these two would add up to 180 degrees. What are some other angle pairs that would add up to 180 degrees? And then corresponding angles. What are some angles that are in the same relative position? For example, maybe you want to go with 1 and 4, because again, these four angles up here are a mirror image of these four angles down below, as long as these lines going across are parallel. So we've got 1 and 4. What is another example here? Go ahead and write it in your packet. All right, and then as we scroll down here, the next part is to create an equation to figure out what the value of x is. So this time, instead of looking for a missing angle measure, we're going to look for what x is here. And so here we see that these are corresponding angles, so we can make the conjecture that they are the same angle measure or congruent. So my equation is going to be that 12x plus 3 is equal to, or congruent to, 11x plus 9. And so what I'm going to do here is try to get x by itself. Well, first off, I can subtract 3 from the left side and the right side. So now I'm left with 12x equals 6. And now I need to get x by itself. So I can do that by, oh, we still have our 11x over here. Almost forgot about it. That's why it's very, very important to rewrite exactly how we see it above. And so I can subtract 11x from both sides, which is going to leave me with just x over on the left side. So now I've got x equals, and if I bring down my 6, x equals 6. So the value of x is 6 degrees. And if I were to plug that into this equation here, I'd have 12 multiplied by 6, which would give us 72 plus the 3 equals 75 degrees. And then over here, let's make sure this also equals 75 degrees. So 11 times 6 plus 9. 11 times 6 is 66, plus 9 does give us 75 degrees as well. So that's how you can check. And when it says double check here, you're going to use that method of substitute in for the original equation, but this time using 6 in place of x. All right, so now you're going to use what you know about these angles here and these angles here to figure out what x is in each of these problems. And so this first one, it would just be 53 degrees because they are corresponding angles. And so you can use some of the terminology. You can use some of our recent examples to help you figure these out. And then you're going to have one more of these where you're given the measure of angle 8, for example, and then you can look at which ones make straight lines at up to 180 and which ones are across from each other, meaning they are the same when they're vertical. And then fill in all of the missing angle measures. And then finally here, you're going to use the algebraic way of solving to figure out what x is. So first you're going to put what type of angles are shown above. What do we know about angles that look like this? And then what equation can we set up to solve for x? In other words, are they going to add up to like 180 or are they going to equal each other? What are we going to write? And then what you're going to do is rewrite your equation right here. And then you're going to go through your steps of solving. So step 1, step 2, and then you'll have your final answer. And then put what the value of x is. And then you're going to submit all of your work from this document onto the Google Doc for today, and then complete the closure, review and preview, and double check that you've done everything else, and then you'll be all good to go. Nice job. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Good luck.